Hi, I'm Eric Grant with Sailrite. In this video, we're going to show you how to make adjustments to the Workhorse Servo Motor. We're going to show you 4 separate chapters. The first chapter will basically be how to set the top end speed of the Workhorse Servo Motor. The second chapter will show you how to set the governance or the speed limiter so you can sew even faster than what the Workhorse Servo Motor comes to you as if you want to. And the third one will be how to set the rotation of the pulley, because it has to turn in a specific way. And finally, the last one will be how to remove one of the pulleys on the shaft and replace it with a different pulley. So let's get started. We're going to remove this cover just so that we can see the pulley. So this screw just comes out and then the cover slides down like that. There's our pulley.
Setting the top end speed is the most common procedure of the Workhorse Servo Motor.
So we're going to turn the Workhorse Servo Motor on, and if I press down on this, this is in basically doing the same thing as pressing down on the treadle all the way. You can see the top end speed is set to 30. And if I release this, then obviously it goes to whatever speed I want to sew in. Let's say we want to change the top end speed. To do that, what I do is I hit the P and then I hit the S, and you'll see that it toggles through numbers. Now when it reaches 45, that's typically the top end or the governed speed right here. So I have 45 and I want to hit P to lock that in. So now when I press all the way down, I get 45. I can still go nice and slow just by releasing the foot treadle and pressing gently on it. So that's awesome. And that is how to set the top end speed. Let's say we want to sew really slow. Hit the P, toggle this, and 45 will turn to 5. There you go. That is now set to 5, and I hit the P to lock that in. So now when I press all the way down, it doesn't go any faster than 5. And I can still sew very slowly. So that is how to set the top end speed.
Resetting the speed limiter is typically not recommended, but you can sew faster if you like.
Now, as we mentioned in the previous chapter, the Workhorse usually comes with a top end speed of 45, but if you want to sew faster than that, you can reset the governance or the speed limiter. And in this chapter, we're going to show you how to do that. To change the speed limiter, hit the S and then the P almost immediately afterwards and hold down. You should see an F. And then release them both at the same time, and you should see an N4. Now you can hit the S, and we can set this all the way up to 70. Now if you go past 70, it'll read 5 again. So there's 70, and then you want to hit the P, and then you want to turn the machine off, and then back on. And now when you press down, you're still going to get 10 because that's where it was set before. But now we can actually hit the P to change the top end speed like we showed in the first chapter, and then S and toggle through, and I'll just keep holding it down here until it reaches our top end speed of 70. This is as fast as it'll go. So now you notice we went past 45. And if you go past 70, it'll go to 5, so go slow when you get there. And now hit P. Okay, so now I still have speed control by pressing lightly on the treadle, but if I press all the way down, now notice it doesn't say 70. You will never see 70 on this. Usually it's anywhere from 60 to 65. This is showing 68. But that is as fast as we can go. So that's how to set the speed limiter to the maximum speed. And then you would obviously do the same process to slow it down to the 45, which comes from the factory. Now, if you're trying to set the top end speed and you do not get an N4, I have an N4 now, what you would do is if it said something opposite of N4, you'd turn it off and then turn it on again and try again.
Changing the rotation of the motor pulley is only necessary if the pulley is spinning clockwise.
When I engage the motor, I want the pulley to be spinning counterclockwise. As you can see here, it's going this direction, counterclockwise. That's correct. Now, if it's spinning the wrong direction, to set it, what you do is you hit the P 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you hit it should say N3, then you hit the S and it'll toggle between 0 and 1, and then 0 and 1. Let's set it to 1 and hit the P to lock it in. And now when I press down, you can see that it's spinning clockwise. This is incorrect. So you don't want that to happen because that can actually lock up a Sailrite machine if you try to sew this direction. So let's change it. So all you do is hit the P 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. It should read N3, hit the S, and we want it to read 0. The 0, and lock it in place with the P, and now we're spinning counterclockwise, which is exactly what we want.
In this chapter, we'll show you how to remove the pulley and reinstall it.
The Workhorse Servo Motor comes with a V-belt pulley, which is this one, and a cogged pulley. These are the two pulleys it comes with. Usually Sailrite machines, almost always, have a cogged pulley, so this is the one that we will install. But if you have a different sewing machine that uses a V-belt, this is the one you'll want to install. There's also an additional pulley that is for the Sailrite Fabricator sewing machine, and this is a speed reducer pulley, so you can get even more slow speed control. We're going to show you how to install this one as well, but this one is sold separately just for the Sailrite Fabricator sewing machine. Okay, we want to make sure that the unit is unplugged, which it is, and we're going to turn it on its side. Now if this is mounted underneath the table, you just leave it mounted. Obviously you don't have to remove it. And we have a nut up here. This is a lock nut, and I believe a 13 millimeter or a 1/2 inch socket works perfect with that. So we're going to remove that nut. Now, if you can't hold the pulley with your fingers, then you may have to use a rag with the channel locks, but you can see if you hold tight enough, you can do this pretty easily. If not, if you can't get it, then drape a rag over it like this, and then use channel locks and put them in the center so they are not on the outside ridges, whether it be this ridge or the ridge underneath, and hold it that way with your socket. But as you can see, mine is pretty easy to do. We're going to remove this nut. Once the tool starts making no more clicking sounds, I know that I can get this lock nut off with my fingers, and I'll try to keep out of the camera's way. Okay, so once that nut's off, if you roll this around, you'll see that there are 2 set screws, one there and one there. We're going to use an Allen key, and I'll have the size of the Allen key on the screen because I don't know what the size is. And we will release these, turning them a few revolutions. They don't have to be removed, but we need to make sure that they are backed out enough. Okay. Now, in most situations, there is a key in here, and usually you can pull this off, but in some scenarios you can't. So I'm going to try to pull it off. You can see there's a lock washer and a washer in here. This will just come out as I pull. Yeah, I got mine off. And there is the key and the keyway. You can see the keyway here in the pulley, and the key is actually on the shaft. I've put this back on, but let's say that you weren't able to remove it like I could with my hands. What do you do? Well, what I typically do is I use a gear puller. I'm going to put this up so it's easier and I don't have to hold it. This can be done while it's still mounted on the table. This is a gear puller, and you can actually pick these up at a auto store for free. They you have to pay for them, and then when you return it, they give you your full deposit back. So if you don't have one, you can get one at any good auto store. So you put it on like this, and this goes in the center of the threaded bolt, and then you would use a wrench typically if it's really stubborn, and you just turn it until it is removed. I'm going to do this by hand because mine's so loose, but you can see this easily removes a pulley that's stuck in place. And it's already off. So gear puller would be used if you can't get the pulley off by hand. Now the speed reduction system for the Fabricator is this pulley, and it does not have a keyway, as you can see here. So what you have here is you have 2 set screws. So what you do in that scenario, since we don't have a keyway here, is you take off the key which I did, and you'd slide one of the set screws into and over the keyway on the shaft, and then you would lock down the set screws with your Allen wrench here and then the secondary one. Once the two set screws are tight, you do not need to use the lock washer anymore, so we'll set that aside. Install the flat washer and then install the lock nut. Let's remove this one. That's for the fabricator. I'm going to put the standard pulley back on. To do that, take the key and slide it into the shaft at about the 12 o'clock position. So there it is. And then take your pulley with the keyway and line it up and slide it on, and then lock down the set screws, this one and that one. Okay, we'll do that off camera. This should be slid on so that it's all the way up against the bushing of the shaft. So those are locked down. Then we'll take our standard washer and our lock washer and then our lock nut and screw it in position. And here we're going to use our 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter socket, and I'm going to hold the pulley with my hand and I'm going to lock this down. Now you don't have to have a ton of torque on this because we definitely have set screws that hold it in place. That's good right there. So we've installed a pulley. Now with this V-belt pulley, it does not have set screws. It'll just have a keyway. And so once you slide this over and you lock these systems down, this one's installed. This is rare for Sailrite. Usually they're all hog.
I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sailrite, thanks for watching.